there's ghouls, there's usually corpses.
It's been very difficult for me to find any flaws worth talking about with a game like The Witcher 3. In every type of design and element put into this game, CD Projekt Red has exceeded every standard the RPG genre has set in the last few years of releases. At this point in the newest console generation's hardware, any company could have created an open world, tossed in some quests, and dunked the rest of their budget into marketing. But the latest and potentially last Witcher has given us a beautiful, vibrant universe to explore, with memorable, expertly written characters and a wealth of content to last you months. This is truly a game made by gamers, for gamers, and it shows. CD Projekt Red poured their heart into this game, and with The Witcher 3, they've earned their place as one of the most reputable and respected development companies in the industry today. Players once again take up the dual sword hilts of Geralt of Rivia, a Witcher, who in this world are a slowly fading relic of history, who were given chemical augmentations as children to give them power to fight monsters. Mercenaries of sorts, they largely stare to the affair of civilians, popping in and out of towns only when they're in need of coin or looking for work. While there's an entire book series and 2 previous games of lore and world building, CG Projekt Red has smartly written the plot to still be accessible for new players, but full of side quests that give context to Geralt's previous heroics, and lots of characters recognizable from previous entries. That said, I didn't play either of the first 2 games in the series, but I may have watched a summary or 2 to catch up. While Geralt, as a monster hunter, is the best at what he does, he always seems to find himself embroiled in the affairs of his friends and the constant state of war the world is in. However, while those are still very much present, this time around Geralt must track down what he considers to be his adopted daughter, Ciri, a young woman who has run off after being chased by a group called the Wild Hunt, which seeks to harness Ciri's blood to take over the world. Geralt, utilizing his keen senses as a witcher, must use these skills, but mainly relying on the word of others to track down his daughter before the Wild Hunt. And unluckily for Geralt, Ciri's been quite busy. The main plot, while certainly providing incentive and urgency for the player to complete, could have easily been forgettable if we were given no reason to care for Ciri, but The Witcher 3 addresses this problem in a really fantastic way. When speaking to certain characters in the game who have seen Ciri or spoken to her, a flashback is initiated in which the player takes control over Ciri to see events transpire from her perspective. Without spoiling anything, not only does this show the player the constant state of danger she is in, but we gain better insight into who she is as a character, and allowed me to value her role in the story, and consequently, Geralt's for that matter. She quickly becomes less of a damsel in distress or the goal for beating the game, but into someone I genuinely want to help. Geralt wouldn't get pretty far in his rescue if he didn't have the skills to carry out this mission, but luckily CG Projekt Red has given him some pretty effective tools to toy around with in this sandbox. As a Witcher, Geralt can use powers called signs to set up different offensive or defensive strategies during combat. These vary from shooting fire out of his fingertips to creating a defensive shield to absorb attacks. Powers can only be activated if your stamina bar is full, so players have to be quick on their feet and choose the right sign for the right situation. Speaking of fleetfoots, Geralt, while powerful, is still just a man with a sword. Against monsters or large groups of humans, he can be quickly down in just a few hits, so The Witcher 3's combat is a game of striking and retreating at opportune moments. Geralt can block and parry sword attacks, but the enemy's fellow AI are smart enough to join the skirmish as well if they see her lining up a killing blow. This is beating a dead horse at this point, but I'm so glad The Witcher 3 broke out of the mold of standing in one place waiting for an enemy to attack so you can parry them. It keeps almost every engagement in the game intense, and challenges the player to use every skill in Geralt's disposal to kill the larger monsters or bosses. To face up to these beasts, Geralt as a Witcher can craft potions that give him different benefits in battle. He can oil his blade to apply more damage to certain enemy types, potions to see in the dark, breathe underwater, or create bombs to destroy monster nests. While they aren't necessary on the lower difficulties, you can bet if you want to play through on the hardest settings, Witchers will need every advantage they can when facing contracted monsters or wildlife. The universe of The Witcher is a whole other creature to tame entirely. Broken up into 2 areas, they're both filled with treasures to find, quests to partake in, monster bounties to collect, and people to meet. The 2 main territories each have their own backstories, religions, politics, history, and objectives, and Geralt will inevitably get his foot stuck in all of them. This world is a joy to partake in, though, because characters are compelling. I wanted to help all of them, and the development of these relationships became more important than the gear or the experience points I would receive by the end of my time with them. Geralt can also embroil himself in a love triangle with 2 girls from his past, which are both nuanced, motivation-driven women, which will give you a hard time choosing between after getting to know them both, no pun intended. These relationships are presented in a mature and natural way, They don't fawn over Geralt like he's the savior of the world. He squabbled with them both over the years, and honestly, if you don't take the initiative to spend time with them, they could probably do without you by the end. This maturity and level of storytelling thankfully isn't limited only to the game's romance. Almost every quest in the game asks a moral question of the player, and there's hardly ever a black and white answer. Geralt often finds himself at odds with different cultures and different sets of values, and there is rarely a right decision that will end in sunshine and daisies. Players are forced, often with a time limit counting down to make gut decisions and hope for the best. It makes it all the more important to pay attention to the motivations and dialogue of certain characters so you can make the most informed decisions you can. Sometimes consequences are immediate, others take effect further down the line. This level of respect given to the player is something I personally haven't seen in a game yet, and discouraged me from a classic, okay, I'll be a good guy in my first playthrough, and a bad guy in my second. The bottom line is that this game is the full package. With a well-acted, written, directed, paced, thoughtful story, satisfying, skill-rewarding gameplay, immersive environments, and lore, this is truly the RPG we've been waiting for in this generation. The RPG we must have all been dreaming about playing one day, setting down the controller after playing The Legend of Zelda or Final Fantasy for the first time. A magical, memorable, and medium elevating experience. It was an absolute privilege to play The Witcher 3.